proud to be here at this university where you have your first female, the female president was the first female president of the Hofstra University. So again, it's a wonderful thing to be here celebrating with you. You know, my staff did a great job in preparing a speech for me. I was traveling last week and I came back and I got a nice prepared speech with lots of statistics. You're not hearing me very well. Let me try again. I said, okay, let me repeat. My staff did a great job in doing some research for a good speech. Statistics on international women and women in the international field and all of those things. But, you know, when I thought of the fact that it's late in the afternoon, I want to send that speech to you, but I want to have a conversation today.
Yes.
Because, you know, there are 110 conflicts in the world. Women and children are the victims of most of these conflicts, but they are not started by women. And part of the reason why these conflicts continue is because women have not really stepped into their own purpose. Many women have not stepped in their own purpose. And more importantly, your power. And so I want to seize on what Dr. Alexander sent to me as the theme for today's gathering, leading ladies. And I recall one of my favorite William Shakespeare plays, As You Like It, where he said, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women are merely players. And we enter and we exit the stage at some point. And I thought, as I thought of leading ladies, and I thought of that phrase or that part of the play, I thought it was important for us to know that clearly we're not going to be here forever. And we have a choice. We can take on the role to be leading ladies in whichever area we find ourselves. But we have to have a sense of who we are, our purpose, and our power. You know, the Bob Marley movie just came out. I hope you've all seen the movie. There were some complaints that there are not enough Jamaicans in the movie. There are actually over 2,000 Jamaicans in the movie.
Oh, okay, well.
But many were extras. They were in the background, they were in the crowd. People only knew of the one leading lady, Miss Lynch, who played Rita Marley. So we have a choice to make in terms of, are we going to be part of the background, the extras? Are we going to seize why we are here? Because we all have the opportunity to be leading ladies. You know, the good book, spiritual, one of our spiritual books, the Bible, tell us that God made Adam, and it was good. But he had a sense that, you know, his creation wasn't really complete. Adam wasn't happy. All the animals, all the fruits, everything created. But there's a sense of incompletion. And he said, I can do a little better. And he put Adam to sleep. And from the man he created, from Adam he created Adam 2.0, the woman. So we have all that was given to the man, plus some more upgrades. Now, how are we using that? And so I wanted to share with you today, as I wanted to share not the statistics of how we care, of what the women are doing in the world today in the field of international relations, the topic I was asked to speak on. I'll still send that speech so you can all have that. But I reflected, I said there must be more from my coming here today. And I also want to share some personal experiences, because coincidentally, I took on the role, I believe, to be a leading lady 30 years ago. And it seems to me that every decade I enter a new role. And I also want to share some of those experiences with you. In 1994, I decided to start my own business. I decided to go into business. And, before that, in my corporate work, I was doing with finance. And I saw that there was an offer made to all staff to buy the shares in the company because the company was going to expand on the stock exchange. And there was an offer to buy shares at a discounted rate. And I thought, this sounds very good. So I went to the banks, put everything I had together, went to the bank, and most of the traditional banks just ignored me, but there was a new bank. They were looking for an opportunity to do things differently. And it was headed by friends who had gone to school with me. So I went to them and I said, I have an idea. I want to buy some shares at my discounted rate. And I think it's going to the rate is going to change. It's going to improve in a few months. I want to flip it and I'll be able to pay you back very quickly. They decided to take the chance because at least they'll still have the shares if nothing else happens. And so I borrowed $1 million. So one of the first things you have to know is that it's okay when you're stepping out. If you take on a role and you're going to be a leading lady, go big.
$1 million.
I borrowed $1 million. And I thought months, in a few weeks, the stock price started to go up. And they were to hand over the shares to me. And it became a problem in the company. I was told, no, we cannot get the shares anymore, it just isn't fair. So I asked for a meeting. What is not fair? Did I buy the shares according to the rules? And they said, yes, but you'll be gaining, you'll be earning too much. Something's not right about that. And it went all the way to the president. And the president called me to a meeting. And he said, well, we have found nothing technically wrong with what you did.
Wow.
But it would endanger your job security for you to proceed with this transaction.
Uh-oh.
And I thought, I'm going to make about $4 million, and you're speaking to me about job security.
Right.
So I left the office and called a lawyer. And by the next week I had my shares, I was able to flip, and I was able to start in business.
Right.
But it was also the start of many trials. And we went through a period where the program I started was sold by an employee to another company, and I ended up in court, and it was just amazing the amount of challenges that I went through during that 1994 to 2004 period. But I started about 3 or 4 businesses, and then I started the first online payment business in Jamaica. Many people thought, what are you thinking? The internet is just becoming commercial and you're going to start a business where you can stay on one end of the island and pay a bill and the other. It's not going to work. But they do say the only difference between the person that they will take and put in a mental institution and the entrepreneur is that you can see things that others can't see, but you are able to convince others that what you're seeing is real. So fortunately, people believed in me and gave me the opportunity to start. As the business was really taking off, a competition started from the largest conglomerate in the country. And I was told we have to, we are going to have a problem. We will not stay in business for very long. So I decided we have to go to court. And so that was my first decade that I in business from 1994 to 2004. I was pretty young then. It was a learning experience. But it became very clear to me that it's okay for you to be comfortable in taking on the role of a leading lady. It's not going to be easy, but the challenges are worth stepping out. So in 2004, I decided to go to court and to really fight for my business. And I was told that in 60 days, your business will be no more because you are nobody. And so, I remember reading that we are made in the image and likeness of God, the creator of God. And I thought to myself, God is not flesh and blood, He's not man or woman, but it's something within us. That spirit of creativity, that spirit that tells us that we are all we need to be. And I said, I'm okay. I'm all I need to be because of who I am and who I'm created to be. And so I decided to continue with the lawsuit. And it was that, but I know that you just cannot. When you are faced with a challenge, you cannot just sit by and think things are just going to work out. You have to do some things to put yourself in a position to make things work for you. And I realized that being a first female going into big business, you are going to encounter challenges. As it is to be a female entering any new field. Because people without even trying to be wicked, they are not used to women in certain roles as yet. It's getting much better now, but still, it is a difficulty. So you have to look at ways that you can make it work for you. And I decided that in a system where there's an all-boys network, I have to create a network. So I started to join many organizations, business organizations, and out of that, I became president of the American Chamber of Commerce, director of many of the business organizations in Jamaica. Started to write articles in the papers, so that I focused on becoming a subject matter expert in the area of business, entrepreneurship, and women doing things differently. So after a while, it became clear to me that every test is really a preparation for a testimony. Because by near the end of the decade, I was asked to become an ambassador for Jamaica to the United States. During that time, I had expanded into writing about the U.S.-Jamaica relationships. I had expanded my profile, and Jamaica reached a critical point. It needed someone to do major negotiations on behalf of the country. The country was actually facing sanctions. It was the first time they decided to send a woman to Washington. It was usually a reward position. You go to, go and enjoy the last years of your life in the capital city of Washington. This time there was some real work. And so women, you know that whenever there's real work, they call God. But again, back to the theme, Dr. Alexander, of leading ladies. You're going to find that sometimes you have prepared yourself and a new role will come up. And you have to be prepared to take on that new role. And so I did not hesitate. I organized my company and I went to Washington for the first time. And it was an amazing experience. And I negotiated on behalf of my country. The president that I met with first was President Obama at the time in 2010. And they were willing to work with Jamaica, and we had a very good outcome. At the end of 2011, there was a new government elected, and my business also had some difficulties. And so I decided to go back home. When I went back home, shortly thereafter, start of a new decade, 2014. And I was told that a contract would be pulled from the company, Master, my company at the time that I was working at. And this contract would take away almost 2/3 of the business. I was facing bankruptcy. So here it was. I'd gotten all this international exposure. I built a good profile in Jamaica. I was, in many ways, doing a good job as a leading lady in business. But with the stroke of a pen, a minister in the political field could bankrupt my company, could take away my ability to retire comfortably, could probably endanger my sending my children to college. And I realized that even when you're doing all you think you can do, there are always other challenges, other roles out there that you need to step into. And I realized I've not paid enough attention to the political field. So I started to think I need to expand my role. But before I did that, I had to meet with all my staff. And I had to say, the company will have to change. The company will need to change because our base has decreased, our revenue base. And so I had a meeting, all staff, and most of the front row had our young female cashiers and staff members who had been with the company for a long time. And before I started to speak, they started to cry. It was an amazing experience. I had my speech all prepared. And then I saw these women, many of them single mothers, because I made a deliberate effort to go after, to employ single mothers. And they were crying. And in that moment, I thought, I got an opportunity to meet 187 ambassadors. What are those ambassadors, really? They are markets in the world. Probably I need to change my business strategy. Maybe this experience should be teaching me something where I do things differently. So I changed the speech and made it a rare speech. Listen, we're all going to get through this. We're going to make it work. I did the most inspirational speech of my life, and then I came off the stage, went to my office, and started crying. No idea how we're going to do this. But I knew that it is possible. And so I started to really look at how can we move from Jamaica into the wider market? How can we become a world-class business supplying this service to the world? And out of that, I started to shift in the fintech world. At the same time, I got a call from a company. They had started, Texaco actually, they had started expanding in Jamaica. And they decided that they wanted to put Paymaster in their stores. And when they called me for a meeting, the president, he said, we have 65 stores that we want to put the Paymaster service in. And I said, oh, God is good. We just have 65 stores. I thought it was so amazing. So of course I'm like, hallelujah, I'm all in. But immediately in that meeting, I started having a little discomfort. And I went back to the office and I wanted to pull the papers together, but I still had that discomfort. And ladies, very important that you know that you have a thing called discernment, intuition.
Yes.
And so when you have that feeling, you must listen to it. Because it's a special feeling, and many times if you ignore it long enough, it goes away. But it's like our warning signal, our GPS, it's given to us so that we can know when things feel right or wrong and know which direction to go into. And I sat down and I thought about it. So what is the lesson? And then I realized if I go back in another contract for 2/3 of the business, and they decide to pull the contract at another point, I'll be back in the same position. And so I realized that for the physical stores, I should not be in any contract where I have anyone having more than 10% impact on the business. And I made a decision. I turned down the offer. I said, I can take 10 of your stores. And I decided to expand another way. Because we must learn the lessons. Yes. And during this time, I was asked to become a director of a government entity. And I asked the minister, who is the chairman? And the chairman was someone who was politically affiliated but not very qualified. And I thought to myself, why would I become a director for someone who I could probably hire as a supervisor? How much will I be able to see the returns of the input if I'm in a position where I'm going to be reporting literally to someone who may not have the capacity to implement what I want to see? And I turned it down. It was an unpopular thing to turn down when they are offered to be put on a board. But I'm making that point to say, if you decide to be a leading lady, don't take supporting roles that won't put you forward. So I proceeded with changing the business to becoming a fintech company. All the staff were motivated because they saw where, there was having their back, making a sacrifice to protect them. And they decided to really go hard to make this work. And we transformed the business. And in maybe less than 2 years, we were able to have an investor approach us to say, they're a large telecoms company, and they want to go in the fintech business. And CG Wilson, you were there with me when we were transforming. And you know that the multiple of a payment business versus a fintech business, a much higher multiple. So you're looking from being a millionaire to a multimillionaire. I won't say that, but seriously, that is the difference in sometimes shifting your business to another level. And so I accepted an offer, sold majority shares in the business, and then decided to focus on my political interest. I called the leader of the opposition and said, do you have an election is coming up, do you have a strategic committee? They didn't have one. So maybe I can be helpful. And they won the next election. Because we all can bring something to the table when we're highly motivated. And I think there's a saying that a woman scorned, that hell has no fury like a woman scorned. And I don't believe that we must use our political powers to hurt anyone. To say that, this year started 1994, 2004, and 2014, all different decades. The government changed. I was asked to come back to Washington. I had organized my business differently. I had some time. I could come back and serve again. This is now 2024. We are in a very complex world in 2024. I don't know where the world is going, but I know that if I continue to take on the leading roles, I can make an input, I can make a difference, and our purpose here as women is to always seek to find ways that whatever role we are in, we can make a difference, we can help transform, we can always walk in our power and help others. So I want to conclude by saying, be wise, defend yourselves, work hard, be fearless warriors. I remember at some point I was called Princess Zena. I don't know if you remember that, that series. And when you're starting, they said, in a time of ancient gods, warlords, and kings, a land of turmoil called out for a hero. She was Xena, a mighty princess, forged in the heat of battle. We're all being called on right now. Because the Bible tells us, behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. That's very profound, because we can be out there, we can be warriors, we can be hard, but we must seek always to do no harm that is not necessary. And so even in this role, there's so many files that comes across my desk. So many times I feel like I'm being tested because people who hurt me are people that I have their file on my desk. And you're tested because there's a tendency where we want to seek revenge. But that's not our role. We must always remember that every day we are the recipients of grace and mercy. So we should always try to use our positions as women to be nurturers, to be mothers in this society, and to show love. And so, I want to leave you today with saying that have empathy, show grace when you have the power to do otherwise, because that's real power. Let your light so shine before men and women that they may see your good works and glorify your Father and Mother in heaven. This is what will make you strong, powerful, royal women. May you be blessed and walk in your purpose. And I have another song to end this list. I hope you all know this song too. Let's all kind of rock a little bit to this one. Let's say